All right, so these are my notes for section 3.3, and it's sort of an extension of the previous quadratic function section. So the first thing here, the big difference here is we're looking at graphs of quadratic functions. So the first thing here does reference a previous definition. The graph of a quadratic function is called a parabola. So you'll recall that a quadratic function is of this form: f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So we're going to be graphing things like that in this section instead of just solving for x. So we're going to be graphing parabolas. These things are called parabolas. And a parabola has a vertex. That's the most important point of a parabola, I think, usually. It has an axis of symmetry, and it opens up or down. Okay, and there's some other important features of a parabola, but those are the main ones. Okay, we can also find zeros of a quadratic function, but we'll get to that later, and I think that's review. So the first thing is, I'll just sketch one. So here's a parabola. Here's my x and y axis, and I will graph a parabola opening up. Okay, so the vertex is this point right there. Okay, it's important to remember that the vertex is an ordered pair. It's an xy ordered pair. It's a coordinate on a graph. It's a point on a graph. Okay, the axis of symmetry is an imaginary line. Okay, it's an imaginary line that cuts the parabola right in half. It's a vertical line. So that green one that I just drew is called your axis of symmetry. So that's a parabola that's opening up. This vertex right here is a minimum value. Okay, that's where the parabola bottoms out right there. So if you're thinking of it as a max or a min, if the parabola opens up, it has a minimum value. It has a local min. And so here's another parabola. Let's pretend I draw a parabola that opens down. Okay, and you just have to pretend that my drawing is perfect. But again, the vertex is right there. That's an ordered pair. It's a point on a graph. Okay, and you're going to be asked to find the vertex on pretty much every single problem in this section. And the axis of symmetry, again, it's an imaginary line. That's why I draw it as a dashed line. It's an imaginary line that cuts the parabola in half vertically. So we'll get to that more in a couple minutes as well. Okay, so that's what the graphs look like, and you'll be asked to look at those graphs and find those important features: finding the vertex, find the axis symmetry, decide if it opens up or down, that sort of thing. Okay, so the rest of the notes basically go into more detail about how to find those. A quadratic function has a vertex that occurs at this ordered pair: negative b over 2a, comma, f of negative b over 2a. Okay, I know that might look like a mess, but I'll show you that it's not that bad. Okay, it's way easier than the quadratic formula. Okay, just remember that the vertex is an ordered pair, and all we're doing basically is finding an x value and finding a y value. So your vertex is just an ordered pair, xy ordered pair. The axis of symmetry is just a vertical line at negative b over 2a. And if you've already done the vertex calculation, it's the same thing. So if you've done the vertex, you just basically have to write the answer for the axis of symmetry. Okay. And the last thing to make a note of here is that if a is greater than 0, then the function opens up. Okay. So for example, if you're given a function like this, I can tell you right away that this thing opens up, okay, because the 5, the leading coefficient, which is your value of a, remember, up here. Your a is your leading coefficient. Your 5 is positive, okay? That means it's greater than 0. So that means this parabola has to open up. Okay, and another way to say the same thing is you could say that the parabola has a minimum value, okay? If you know that the parabola opens up, it has a min. And if that was a -5, we would have a parabola that opens down, which would mean a max, okay? Now, some of the other videos will show you how to find the vertex with completing the square, and that's fine. You can watch those other videos. I'm not going to use that method. But completing the square is great, but the method I generally show in class is this formula right here, -b over 2a. That's the formula that'll get you through almost all your problems. Well, it'll get you through every problem that asks you to find the vertex. Completing the square is fine, but you can watch the other videos for that method.